welcome back to the class, everyone. We are well on our way into 2024, and as per usual, Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes has no shortage of teams for us to be working on or be working towards. But as always, we have a finite amount of resources that we can dedicate to each one. So the question becomes, which teams should we be investing in this year? So a little disclaimer before we jump right into all of our squads. This is not going to be a video about 8 Galactic Legends and 2 other squads. While I do realize they are the best in a variety of game modes, it becomes very difficult and challenging to farm them at the same time or even back to back. So really what we're going for here is some of the best squads that you can have that are going to serve you in a lot of different game modes to the best of their ability. The first team that we're going to look at is the Inquisitorius, and they are a perfect example of this. These are not going to be ranked like 1 to 10. They're all just kind of in a random order. But if they were to be ranked 1 to 10, Inquisitorius would really be the #1 squad for 2024. And the reason why, they do so much for each and every game mode. Number one, they are amazing PvP characters as a whole. They do not need their Omicrons, but they do greatly benefit both from Third Sister's leadership as well as from Grand Inquisitors on the side for TW. Even beyond that, though, they are going to be very good in Conquest as they have a multitude of debuffs and pair really well with Amplify Agony. They also have some special missions going on within the Road to Be, both to unlock Riva, and then on top of that to even get yourself some extra currency. The really only game mode that they're not going to help you out at all in is the raid, because that's very limited to a certain number of characters. I will even add, they're really important for ships right now. The entire reason that the Empire can off-meta a lot of the really strong ships out there like Leviathan, Profundity, and Executor is because of the Scythe piloted by both Grand Inquisitor and Fifth Brother, as well as the TIE Interceptor by Second Sister. Defender also does some really cool things, and that we'll actually get to that here in a second. The next team I want to talk about is Phoenix, and while Phoenix aren't quite as influential as the Inquisitorius squad, they're still doing a lot of different things in a lot of different game modes. Obviously, from the PvP perspective, they're doing, again, not quite the level that Riva is beating Galactic Legends, but they're still challenging a whole lot of those stronger squads with Crex's, Omicron, as well as Hera's in TW. Not quite as good as Crex's in GAC, but still doing a lot there. On top of that, they do serve as a squad that can be used really well in Conquest because they're what we call reactive. And what I mean by that is they don't need 400 or 500 speed to beat out the teams in Sector 4 and Sector 5. They have ways of recovering their health and protection, and then on top of that, they're able to counter and hit the team back before they even really get going. As a plus, the raid that is going to be going on for the majority of this year, Hara and Crex are included in that. Hara herself has a way to gain evasion and pairs really well with a lot of the Imperial troopers. Speaking of Imperial troopers and the current raid, we want to talk a little bit more about the Iden team. Well, Iden does suffer quite a bit in TW without having a way for her team to function as well without her GAC Omicron in there. She still is very good within GAC itself. And then on top of that, you get one of the most important ships for the Empire fleet being the TIE Defender. It's really what is letting Empire beat the really strong fleets out there like Leviathan, and even in some cases Executor, if you're trying to go for that split to be able to beat Executor and Profundity. She's also just a great unit in general, as we've kind of listed here with this general squad. And then on top of that, you do want to work on several of the troopers for the Endor raid. Iden obviously is one of the most important. He's not listed in this team as well, but you can also use range, as he has, again, that evasive maneuvers technique that we talked about before. And also, the team's pretty fun in Conquest because they start with 100% turn meter. So if you have the right discs, you can just immediately run over the enemy team without them really able to get a word in edgewise. Next up is going to be old but still gold, and that is the CLS team. They don't have or really need right now any Omicron specifically to boost them into the next level. They do have their own specific assault battle. I guess Inquisitors do too. We didn't mention that, but they have their own specific assault battle that they're able to 3-star just with the basic team so that you can immediately get it on sim. On top of that, they've been, again, a very good PvP squad. And in Conquest, they're really nice because of the same reactive reasons we talked about when it comes to the Phoenix squad. They don't have to go first. Well, actually, Han always does go first, but even after that, they have ways of climbing out of that hole by gaining turn meter whenever you attack them or whenever CLS gets his debuffs out there, whenever their debuffs are resisted. So a lot of ways out of that. And one of the other great reasons why I would really recommend working on the CLS CLS team is because they are a gateway into a lot of different Galactic Legends. JML, Jabba, and Leia really require you to get this whole team going because you need Jedi Knight Luke for 2 of them, and then the last one you actually just need to build up CLS himself. So overall, really good for squad building and just useful in a multitude of game modes. Now, the next one, Quion Jin squad, and there is a little bit of an asterisk on the squad. You're not always going to want to use Quion Jin lead. You definitely want to use Quion Jin lead as far as Grand Arena Championships goes. But this squad in general, it used to be limited only to Grand Arena, and it's always been pretty good there, but now it's going to be better than ever. If you want to use it outside of Grand Arena, Kelleron Beck is now giving it new life outside of that. This character is not currently farmable, but will definitely be farmable in the next couple of weeks, so it can make it a prime target for you to work on during 2024. He not only is going to add a leadership that is not really just tied to Grand Arena, he has a great TW Omicron if that's something that your guild is into, and in addition to that, he just has a really nice unique that is going to help bail out the Qui-Gon squad in a multitude of areas, especially trying to resist target lock and healing immunity where they gain tenacity up, which kind of puts a stop to Bad Batch, or at least makes it incredibly hard for Bad Batch to get going, because if you know how they work, they want to apply healing immunity and then stun off of it, and with tenacity up, they won't be able to stun. Again, giving this team not just in GAC or TW, but it will be able to be used in a multitude of other game modes. And it is relatively, if you're not including Cam, the team is relatively cheap once Kelleron Beck does go fully farmable. Next up is going to be the Sith Empire. They're great in a lot of different areas, but the biggest place that you need this squad is fleet. Right now, the strongest fleet in the entire game is the Leviathan. It is kind of annoying in general, but it can't be ignored that it is important. On top of that, if and when we do get a new fleet meta this year, the chances of the Leviathan being one of the only good counters to it is pretty high. That's just typically how things go. When the Executor first came out, one of the still kind of better counters to it is Negotiator, but you have to kind of use some things with Plo. Even on top of that, Executor was always one of the solid counters to Profundity, and Profundity beats most Leviathans that aren't 7 stars. So again, we see this trend that typically the fleet that is out right now is going to beat the one in some situations right in front of it. On top of that too, the squad is just amazing in GAC, and Malgus himself is still, if you want to build the best TW squad for Sith Empire, you still have to use Malgus. His leadership is still much better over Darth Revan's, as it pretty much does a full stop to troopers even without having the Omicron itself. They're both good offensively and defensively in GAC, and the team really isn't all that bad in Conquest either because it has a lot of survivability. Next up is going to be the Finnzor team. I realize I'm starting to sound like a broken record about this team, but it is just that good and PvP defense. It can do some things in some other game modes, but I really want to talk about PvP defense specifically for GAC. It is so hard right now to find good defensive teams that a lot of people are going to fail against. And one of the really great things, and this is going to sound odd, about Finn is there are about 4 or 5 counters that work well most of the time. The reason why this works in our favor is because a lot of people are going to take in things like Night Sisters or CLS, and they were going to have won that battle before. But those counters, if you check .gg, are only about 50% win rates, which is great for us because while that means people won't entirely stop doing them because they've won with them before, they can also lose with them depending on where your Omicrons, your relics, your mods, all those things added up together are when the opponent comes in facing it. So while it is certainly beatable in a lot of situations, it does have one of the higher hold rates because not only does it have squads that it can beat, but it has squads that can beat it that look like they can, and you get this fun mixture of things, sometimes working and sometimes failing, which for your defense is exactly what you want. You don't want people going in with counters they know are going to work 100% of the time. Next up is going to be Bad Batch. I've stayed off of the Bad Batch train for a little bit, not because the team is bad, the team is very good, but because they require such an investment in Kairos. It becomes a very expensive team. However, their importance is really starting to kick into gear. And there is some speculation that I have, but even that apart, they're a great PvP squad that has been able to keep up with a lot of the newer teams out there recently, like Wookiees. But even without that, they are now pretty much required to pilot the Marauder, which is really the only thing that is letting the Negotiator fleet function in the very end game against Executor, Profundity, and Leviathan. And furthermore, they went out of their way to completely rework Mace, put in the ship, and it obviously didn't go as they had planned. But it really is clear to me that they have more intentions with Mace than just the Marauder. I think we're going to get more Galactic Republic ships that are meant to be with the Marauder, whether they end up going with Negotiator to make a super comp or they go with Mace to make 2 GR comps. That I don't know. I don't even know if CG knows that, but I think they're going to be they're going to have a bigger role in the future than they even have now. In addition to that, we're supposed to be getting Season 3 of the Bad Batch sometime this year. That is yet to be released the actual day, but we have word that it's supposed to be within this next coming year. And I really think we're going to get Crosshair, and they're very likely going to be required to be able to get him. Right now, they're only really required for Lord Vader, and Omega herself isn't required for anything. So I would not be surprised at all if we get a Crosshair Legendary event somewhere throughout the year where all of them have to be R7 or something like that. Very similar to our recent Bow team out there. Maybe we'll have to get someone else up as well. So I said we weren't going to really talk about 10 Galactic Legends. Or the 8 Galactic Legends. I do want to talk about 2 of them. Jabba and Leia. I really would make it a goal to get one, if not both of them throughout this year, to the best of your ability. I realize some people have newer accounts. You don't have as many resources at your disposal to be able to get them, but the amount of value that these 2 have right now is still just ridiculous. Jabba the Hutt, despite the fact that he does not have the crate raid right now, it really almost doesn't change anything when it comes to his overall value. Still an amazing PvP team, both JC and TW, even better in TW with the Embo Omicron still going out there very strong. He has the Smugglers Run 2 event, which is great for your mods, especially getting a lot of the attenuators at a much faster pace than normal. He's very important in the Rote TB. He's good for overall for roster building. You do kind of get some not so great characters with him, but you get to have a full bounty hunter squad for an assault battle. In addition to that, you'll get Jedi Knight Luke. With Jedi Knight Luke, you'll have to get the Millennium Falcon. So you have a lot of really good roster building when it comes to Jabba the Hutt. Leia, not as good overall because Smuggler's Run is still quite a bit better than her own personal event that gives the Omicrons. She doesn't have as much involvement in Rote. We don't really know exactly where her overall PvP viability is without the Datacron. But all that being said, the raid is still going to be a mainstay right now. And not only is she amazing in it, she can solo it or solo her part of it for a really high score. But on top of that, the characters that you're required to gear are mostly also good in the raid alongside her. So you're getting a ton of value by going after her in that regard. And really, that's going to be very important for the year of 2024 because after this year, that raid isn't going to be active anymore. And so we've kind of reached the 10 squad limit. I do want to throw out a honorable mention to Night Sisters. I do believe they're still going to be really important. I don't think they're as versatile as some of the other squads like Inquisitors or Leia that we talked about, but they have some good GAC Omicrons. They do have a special mission in Road as well where you can get more currency. And on top of that, you are going to want to have them for the assault battle where now with Marin, even this squad, for example, can pretty easily pull off the Challenge Tier 3 after a remod. So that is really cool for a resource perspective because then you can start amassing those relic materials a lot quicker. That is going to be our video for today. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And I'd really like to know, what squad are you working on for 2024 that you think is going to be important for your roster? Thank you guys for watching. And as always, stay awesome.